Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Shafiq Dayat. This is the presentation for experiment 1, Marcet boiler. A group consists of 3 participants, that is Hanan Delisha binti Afi, Muhammad Ahmed Ashraf bin Muhammad Nazali, and myself. So the introduction, the purpose of this experiment was to identify how the temperature and pressure of saturated steam in equilibrium relate to one another. In addition, the vapor pressure curve was demonstrated by this experiment. The temperature rises in a parallel with the pressure. Consequently, there is a straight proportionality between temperature and pressure. The slope was computed using the data and derived formulas. In theory, the measured and anticipated values ought to be almost identical.
The objective of this experiment is to observe the relationship between pressure and temperature of saturated steam. And the scope that we use in this experiment is the temperature is set between 97 to 100 degrees Celsius, and also we use distilled water instead of tap water. The theory and working principle of this experiment. First one is the Marcet boiler experiment. It is commonly known to study the relationship between pressure and temperature in a closed system, which contain saturated liquid, and it's typically water. So by doing this experiment, we can see how the saturated steam pressure increase with temperature by following the thermodynamic principle of pure substance according to basic thermodynamics. And also the thermodynamic properties of a pure substance could be determined by two of the following characteristics, which is T, P, H, S, and V. This data characteristic could be obtained either from the experiment or equation, so from theoretical and also experimental. Among two thermodynamics properties that easily measured, it is T and P, which is temperature and pressure. So relations between these properties could be expressed in the form of graph and also equation. The measured value of the slope of a graph can be obtained from the experiment's result data, and we can compare it to the corresponding values calculated from steam tables. So this is the formula that we use to measure the value of the slope, dt over dp.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hana Risha and I will be explaining for experimental setup. So for the experimental setup, we are using a Marcet boiler that includes manometer, filler plug, overflow valve, heater, temperature gauge, heater switch and main switch. Okay, so for the methodology, first we need to fill water into boiler by opening filler plug and make sure the overflow valve is open and let the water flow out when it's full. After that, we should close the filler plug and then heat the water in boiler with overflow valve open. When the temperature reaches 97 degrees C to 100 degrees C, close the overflow valve and then note the increase in temperature for each pressure of 0.5 bar until pressure reaches 5 bar. Switch off the heating and record the decrease in temperature for each pressure of 0.5 bar. For safety procedures, first use heat resistant gloves to prevent skin from getting burned while we touch the boiler. Secondly, make sure the machine is in good condition to prevent any technical issues that could be dangerous or might start an explosion. Thirdly, turn the switch off after use. It could trigger any explosion and overheat in the boiler. And lastly, do not touch the boiler while it's heating, and it might cause burn as some of the part is not heat resistant.
These are the result table that we obtained by doing this experiment. So this is the graph that we obtained from the data that we get by doing this experiment. So from the first graph and second graph, we can see that the temperature will increase as pressure increase. And this is the calculation that we did to obtain the slope at P. And lastly, the calculation that we did is the percentage error calculation, which we want to measure the differences, the error between our experimental result and also the theoretical.
For the discussion, air must be removed from the boiler since it can affect the accuracy of the test results. The figures show that temperature and pressure have a directly proportional relationship, but there is a tiny discrepancy between the theoretical and experimental slopes. The percentage of error was 52.28%. Error sources include computations, room temperature and pressure, material stability, and the precision of measurements or readings. The liquid will transform into a vapor after it has absorbed enough heat energy. The pressure will rise as a result of the steam being prevented from leaving, raising the temperature. Water boilers, gasifiers, power plants, and culinary facilities are among the uses for Marcet boilers. In conclusion, in this experiment, the relationship between pressure and temperature is found to be directly proportional. When compared to the theoretical value, the experimental value shows a small deviation between them because of certain errors. That's all.